Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tarnished Bronze. We've got a special issue for you today. The thing that no one wanted, a Justice League of Detroit focus on Gypsy. And when she comes out of hiding, look out. And Patrick, what should we be looking out for in this issue of the Justice League of America?
Um, Criminal negligence. That's the two-word phrase for the way this four-story arc ends. It it's almost infuriating. The elements are there for a great story. They're tacked on at the end. I just I would take these four issues, trash them. Look, I'm not trying to be rude. I love comic books. I'm usually somebody who's just like entertain me, and I'm easily entertained. So I don't mean to come off too negatively, but I probably will this episode, just because I feel like, as we've said before, this is fertile earth, and there's so many good things that could have come from this, and I'm just really kind of disappointed. Even what is it? 40 years later, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed.
Okay, so most comic channels on YouTube fall into two broad categories. One is all the finance people saying that they went to a garage sale and they found the first appearance of some shithead in a Hulk comic. Couldn't care less. The other types of YouTube channels are looking at modern comics and they've all gone to buggery because they're worried about, representing this, that, and the other instead of telling good stories or what they consider good stories. So we've got the Novo comic complainists, we've got the old-timey comic investors, and on this channel, I have a few modern things that I kind of highlight in some side issues, but Patrick and I are focused on some undiscovered gems of the Bronze Age. And we've now discovered another type of comic channel, old people complaining about old comics.
Here's the thing, you know, we will sort of nitpick and find some negative things, but I feel like we usually do a really good job of being positive, not on purpose. It's just our personalities. I think we're very genuine in what we talk about. We are kind of balanced in, we'll find it's no fun if you're just like, this was great,
I
and
didn't
you
want
don't
to like
find
this.
any,
I
if there's
wanted
no
to like this.
criticism.
Yeah.
Yes. But at the same time, I do feel like we find positive things in stories where a lot of people necessarily wouldn't. There are things about this comic book that I actually really like, but the things that I like about it make me so uh
It's a disappointment. It's a
yeah, I want so much for this to be maybe even revisited, because like I said, I just feel like it could be so much. The twist at the end is really a great idea. It's just it's so little is done with it. I want to know more about the cadre. I feel like we could have had a page interspersed, within the comics for each one, so that that's what I want as a kid. That's what I want as an adult, is to show me Black Mass. Just show me just a half a page even of him becoming Black Mass and what are his motivations. Like I said in one of our previous episodes, maybe Fastball is an MLBer who was going to make the big leagues. Maybe he blew out his arm. Maybe he was on PEDs, and he got dismissed from the league. And he's cybernetically enhanced. He's embittered, and that's why bring the cadre along. I think one of the things that where they've made a mistake, in my opinion, and again, I hate to be like this, and if people are their watchers, I don't know, probably not, but people who maybe watch our episodes, I don't think I normally come off like this, but this has annoyed me so much. I don't feel like we needed to pretend to highlight the different Justice League characters, which the first two issues sort of did, and the next two issues really didn't. We could have told their stories without trying to have that artificial uh, d- uh, schematic over the whole thing, and maybe have told a better story from the beginning, instead of having this Deus ex machina sort of resolution at the end. This story doesn't highlight Gypsy. I mean, she does sort of save the day, but completely by doing nothing, except, maybe going to where the Justice League is. I mean, and then touching something. I don't want to spoil the comic, but like I said, there are a lot of good things that as a kid you would think, oh, Shatterfist, he's so cool. What's his power? And you could use this in your imagination, as we've talked personally, when you're riding your bike or playing with your friends. But as a comic book, it's really a letdown when it really could have been so great. And it just upsets me. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with it. As you can see, I may have to go to therapy again, and it's been many years.
Yeah, well, I don't want to. There's a lot of things to unpack in that statement,
I'm
Patrick. But
sorry. I don't I'm usually not like this. I feel like I'm exposing myself to you as a friend.
yeah, I we just have to remember the whole point of us covering the Justice League Detroit on this channel is because I was blown away by the quality of Justice League Annual 2, their debut sort of appearance, and they have this fantastic sort of potential. And I was going along for the ride for the first three issues, each introducing or attempting to kind of like delve into the backstory of one of the new members. And then we have this thing where we're wasting time doing pages of Crisis tie-ins, and Crisis isn't even it's still a year before it'll come out. Why couldn't we have done a page on the cadre and the Overlord or the Overmaster and so on? Why is he so big? Why are the you know I
Look at
it's
that. Look, just
criminal negligence for me to be keeping asking why, no matter how good this page is, might I
this is
add.
what I said. And this page is amazing. This is first of all, the art is amazing, especially in certain places. This splash page, when you open this
Chef's
comic book,
kiss.
yes, I'm like, oh my God, give me it all. Put it straight in my veins. The Overmaster's design and this sort of beret looking thing. First of all, we haven't really been talking about this when we've been talking about these. Each one of these issues has opened with a part of the evolution of life on Earth. Uh, Different little vignettes from different time periods, millions of years in the past. This one combines those into one and then sort of ends with the Overmaster, sort of giving you the idea that he has something to do with the evolution of life on Earth from single cell organisms into what you see before the specimen you see before you today, right? So that's already a very interesting concept, right? Now, how this ends up getting wrapped up is just the biggest dud. It's like having the most gigantic firework and then you light it and nothing happens, in my humble opinion. But when you see this, the design of Overmaster is amazing. Shrike on his shoulder, which is a little bit cut. Unfortunately, it's cut off of the scan. I'm not criticizing. I'm not going to misdirect my anger at this comic towards you, Matt, so don't worry. But Shatterfist looks amazing. Fastball, amazing. I can't even remember the name of the character that kind of looks like Black Orchid. If you remember, that's a
Yeah,
deep cut too. I don't really know anything about Black Orchid, but I know her name, and they do give her a name. She has sort of Shadow Last powers of blackout kind of dark powers. Black Mass, also very interesting, where he goes from this sort of pencil neck geek into this gigantic Black Mass. And Crowbar, who actually has a tie into the team because he's the leader
yeah.
of the Skulls, this rival gang. Just such fertile ground. Tell me about these characters. They look amazing. It just feels like a waste. Sorry.
All right, and I think because we don't want to just cut it all off there, we have to delve into just the rest of this. But um, Patrick, what can you tell me? What's a common theme in these Justice League issues?
And here's the other thing, right? And another thing. Look, this is something that we noticed from the first issue of these four issue series is so finally the Justice League faces off with the Cadre, and there are again the art. There are some really interesting, great panels, right? Um, and there's a lot of opportunity for this battle to be great, but it ends up being a little bit lackluster. Whereas in the hands, and I don't mean to compare people, but if you think about, if you watched our issue or our episode about the Hellfire Club teaming up with the X-Men against Nimrod, against the Marauders, the way those teams use their powers together. Now, to be fair, this Justice League is new. They don't know how to work together. Maybe the cadre's new and they don't either. But we still want to be entertained. But back to your point, what we're seeing in these four issues is throwing rocks at people. I mean, that's Zatanna throws rocks at people. She can do anything with her powers. She throws rocks at people twice. She opens the ground up. She makes the earth rise. Like, what can she do besides rocks? We have Steel picking up rocks and throwing them on fastball. We have Crowbar taking his crowbar and splitting the ground open and tearing up rocks. Shatterfist doesn't shatter anything with his fist except the ground so that the rocks fly up. I already said steel. Wasn't there? Oh, and Vibe, I think, does it too. Shoots the things at the rocks and they fly up. Like, what can we do besides rocks? Like, how did somebody see this and not go, maybe we're overusing the rock thing a little bit? One of the things
Right,
I like,
Patrick. Like just wind him up and watch him go.
people have never seen me like this. I don't know what's gotten into me. I haven't even finished one cup of coffee today. Like, but it just I love these characters and I love this setup. I love villain team ups. I love new characters. Whoever created these characters, and I'm sure it's the writers, so let me give him credit for that, you know. And Conway's written a lot of things that I love. So I mean, God forbid, who's listening to me, nobody gives a shit what I think. But you know, I'm not trying to tear anybody apart, and I know I'm being super animated, and I'm kind of just going with it, right? Like it is what it is, and it's fun to kind of just like let yourself get worked up. But I just feel like there's so much opportunity and I don't want to see just rocks flying through the air.
Yeah, it is a real missed opportunity, although the rocks are really well rendered. And another thing is that at least it's not elongated man's neck that we're seeing threaded through all the rocks. It's his body, which is really good. Just going back to that spread, these are cosmical sort of creatures, right? The cadre, but they seem to have a lot of tech in the background. So it's like both magic and tech united together to fight the Justice League. Dynamism is out of this world, but what are we flinging at villains like crowbars and rocks and just bullshit? That's so it's Patton is just wasted on this.
You're right, the art is really cool and honestly just looking at it again, but I know how it ends. Do you
Okay,
know what I mean? I know how it goes. So when we see these beautiful scans that you've done, it looks like what's this guy going off about? Shut up. Like shut up, boomer. I'm not a boomer by the way. But
you could be
but
an
and I love
honorary one.
okay, I
for,
mean, at this point, I'm gonna get my, I mean, you know, I'm gonna get my AARP badge for sure. I love Aquaman catching the crowbar and sending it back and Shatterfist splitting it. I mean, you've really picked out the best parts to make me look like an asshole, and that's fine. But you know as well as I do, there's a lot of rocks throwing, and you know, just I just feel like it could have been so much more. I mean, I'm gonna be repetitive. I feel like I should just shut up because I'm probably gonna the FCC is gonna be on our ass at some point. But you know, I look at Shatterfist. Look at these horns. Look at this mask. Look
why
at
does
the
he have
his
that? Yeah.
Kirby crackle around his arm, his hands. I mean, he looks amazing.
Yeah. Once again, your catchword is criminal negligence. Mine is missed opportunity. Everyone just looks real badass, but then, oh, what do we have here? What's our big solution to the Justice League tearing us a new one? Oh, we'll just rip the floor up and do some floor-based maneuvers. You know,
Forward.
yeah. Um,
It is cool. So the Justice League is sort of finding themselves on their heels in this battle that, again, I feel like maybe could be been done a little better. Let's tone it down and woo-saw ourselves. And the Justice League escapes further into the complex that they've been transported to. Like you said in a previous episode, the Overmaster seems a little bit overpowered. Why does he need the cadre? Why does he even what you know? And that's never really explained. But the Justice League sort of escapes this nigh omnipotent being and his underlings and flee further into the complex, aborting this battle that didn't really hit the, let's say, didn't hit my buttons.
Yeah, the Benenke bailing out. Luckily, Dave
Meanwhile,
Gunn
Yeah,
is there.
meanwhile, Gunn has returned to the complex, found the Justice League gone. Has infiltrated. She's always hanging out there in her camouflage form, and she says, they've disappeared. They were on their way home. So they track them down, and they end up going to the same complex, which I think is maybe somewhere in the Arctic, kind of.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is like a hollow Earth conspiracy theory, a more modern conspiracy theory, or some Discordianism given life, but it's both like ancient and modern. Great. Like I might have said before, I like using the same different shades of the same color in order to like give fore and background and mid ground. And that bottom panel is just sign me up to make my off home office wallpaper look all techy like that. Just really cool.
And here
Patrick,
we see Zatanna doing something besides Earth manipulation. Maybe she could shoot a fireball at the villains. Maybe she could do, a callback to D&D. Maybe she could have magic missile, right? I've been playing
yeah,
D&D lately again, so.
magic missile and fireball become cliches because they're so worthy of it, Patrick. What's your favorite D&D spell, might I ask?
Yeah, you know what? Probably magic missile.
Yeah, because you
Although
can
I did use thunderclap recently, which was really good.
okay, so now when I go through all these old issues, I will definitely be highlighting all of the D&D advertisements, especially the ones to Ravenloft and Forgotten Realms, because they're just so good. But we digress. We've got more problems with floors because whoever laid the tile is doing it in such an idiotic way. Although I do, like I said, the art is fantastic. Look at
It
the
really
the
is.
the fifth panel to the next one. Like you can see elongated man going into the page, and then he comes out of the page in the next. Like there's a lot in this, Patrick. It's just there's the the individual panels are fantastic. Some of the dialogue is great, but the scaffold that it's attached to is just really disappointing in this particular case.
Well, we've been waiting for this confrontation, so we've been waiting for this to happen, and that makes it a little bit more disappointing. And, I've said this many times. I don't know if on the channel, but probably, and I know I've said it to you in person. I feel like a lot of comic books set up a great story and they tell a great story, but they don't finish a great story. And I think this is a prime example of that. And we'll see why when we get to the end page, or the end pages, why
And
that's the
that,
case.
I think, is what separates your Alan Moores from your David Michelinis.
This is where they've gone into the complex to
Yeah.
escape Overmaster and the cadre. We've got this gigantic alien creature that appears to be hibernating. For some reason, he has a glowing pyramid over his head. I don't know that we ever really figure out why
Uh,
that's the
I,
case.
sometimes I make a mockery of my Discordianism, but I think this is meant to be the mind's eye, the third
Uh,
eye. So he's enlightened and awoken, or perhaps, if you want to be a real conspiracy theorist, illuminated.
I knew you were going
Um,
to say that.
yeah, but this is like one of those awesome things. You could do it in Conan. You could do it in the X-Men. It doesn't matter the setting. This sort of thing will always work. Ancients with futuristic technology. That's why Ancient Aliens has 20 seasons of it. People can't get enough of it. But then what happens with this awesome reveal?
Not a single fuck dang thing. Not a single thing. I mean, look at his toes hooked into the technology. I mean, when I look at this, I'm just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Who is this? What's going on? What's this deal? What's this pyramid? But what happens? The cadre shows up.
Yeah. And how come is he a DC prototype for Wolverine? Because he has the three,
I
that's
think
just,
he's I think I think he's hooked up there too, right? I don't think that those are even, Lee press on nails. I think he's actually completely hooked into this station. Just yeah, it just looks amazing. Look at the design of that character. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't even know
like
if we can call him a character, to be honest.
it's just so sad. Like I could have an once again. Let's get Alan Moore to do an 8 issue miniseries on this guy.
So the cadre shows up at exactly the wrong time narratively, and
Yeah,
they don't even have a battle this time. They just sort of show them all engaged at once. Um, we don't know why, but Martian Manhunter is curious about the glowing pyramid jewel because he notices that there's some kind of telepathic presence from it. Um, you know, honestly, these battles are a little bit more interesting, but like I said, we've been spoiled because we've seen some really great battle scenes and some good fighting in other comics, and I just want so much more. I really like the cadre. Like, I want them to come back. I want them to be featured. I want them to have their own 12 issue mini series.
yeah, yeah. But sadly, Patrick, maybe you and I will have to make that comic because it doesn't seem like there's much fuel to that fire. Just as a scene, though, doing a battle on top of like an ancient Yog Shoggoth or Cthulhu like alien is kind of cool.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
you know, I could have done with like one really zoomed out shot of them all just climbing over this thing, just fighting. Like I didn't actually realize it until I kind of went, "Oh, what happened to that massive dude?" Then I was like, "Oh, that's actually his under his arm, and like his that's his shoulder." Like, does that make sense, Patrick? Like they
Oh
could have
yeah,
solved that.
absolutely. In fact, I don't even think when I reread it that I noticed either that they're probably actually fighting on the alien, presumed alien.
And
Uh, when
I
Gypsy
I'm
shows
stopping
up,
I'm
she
stopping the feed there, Patrick, because like the rest of it is just a massive disappointment.
we have to explain it though, because otherwise people aren't going to understand why I'm apoplectic. Because honestly, looking at the scans, I'm almost like, oh, maybe I was too hard on it. But what happens is Gypsy shows up. This is supposed to be her highlight issue. So far, all she's done is tell Dale that the Justice League disappeared. Then they show up. She's just kind of standing there, and she happens to be the one who touches the pyramid. When she touches the pyramid, the cadre disappear, the Overmaster disappears, the League jump in their jets and fly off. Then the headquarters flies off, and they go, "Hmm, maybe that was that alien spaceship. Oh, maybe I'm conjecturing, I'm just throwing this out there. Maybe Overmaster was a parasite and he was suctioning power off of this hibernating alien. And maybe the alien, even though we haven't been privy to the opening portions of each comic book, maybe that alien was responsible for allowing life to evolve on Earth. And this is all just written in exposition in just maybe two people's dialogue. Like, you're going to tell me that story? Like, that is, yeah, that's an amazing story. That should be more than two panels at the end of a four
Yeah.
issue arc.
Tell me that one. Like that's the
Yeah.
story that I want to read. I don't know if anyone noticed this, but in none of those panels, Gypsy is not even in a panel. Like out of the top 8 pages that I scanned, it just so happens, and I didn't try and do this, Patrick. It just so happened that that was the eventuality. Gypsy does not appear in one of them.
She was, oh, the side of her face was in one of your panels when they're flying into the Arctic.
Okay.
I think they're like, oh, the Aurora Borealis. Like, I, I just hate it when things end and then they're like, oh, and this is what really happened. Blah, 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 blah. Because honestly, like, let's say that we just scrapped this and we told the story of that is a great premise, and that is a story that can be told chronologically. It doesn't even have to be told in a backwards way. It could be we see this alien land on Earth, or maybe he does one thing, that alludes to the fact that he's super powerful and that maybe he's doing something that's allowing life to evolve. Maybe we see him hibernate. Maybe we see Overmaster just appear. We give little vignettes of him recruiting people. We give him some sort of motivation and some limitation on his powers where he's obviously super powerful, like you said. But why didn't he just teleport them into the sun? Why is he against the Justice League anyway? I don't even know that we even know that.
Patrick, it's 1985, I think, in these issues. It's not like month to month issues have a problem with building a mega arc, and we've been disappointed in the Avengers of this era precisely because of that. They built this massive arc with no payoff. Here we have the payoff and no arc. Like, does that make sense? Here's the total opposite problem. We have this thing that we could have milked for 2 pages a month, culminating in this massive alien like space interior psychology opera, and we don't get any of it. We get, yeah, it's just a real, like, what did you write? It's criminal negligence. Yeah, just a massive missed opportunity. And it's a missed opportunity because all of the ingredients were there. I think that's the upsetting thing. And I know that the modern comics are so intent on going back into fabulous eras of comics and inserting unnecessarily new characters. Why don't we go back to all of the eras of comics that didn't have a resolution, and we can dust off those and make new stories instead of inserting new characters into old stories? Let's make new stories out of old characters. I mean,
Honestly, I feel like at this point I should maybe just apologize a little bit because I don't mean to go off on honestly like I'm surprised myself, but I just feel like when I read the last page or whatever and then reviewed my notes before this podcast, it's just it just happened all again. I was so triggered by the whole thing, to use a common phrase, that I just feel like that's such a great story and such a cool idea. And but then somebody like Martian Manhunter or somebody just going, "Oh, maybe he was a parasite." Like, well, then let him
so
be a parasite. Like, I don't.
so Patrick, we've had these issues on the channel before where the reach exceeds the grasp, and I'm one that sort of thinks that maybe those ambush bug mini series was like spreading it too thin, but what they were aiming for is like worthy. Okay.
Mhm.
So we can both be like, well, this scope of this story is fantastic, but the execution of, like, just because your science fiction novel like has some cool stuff in it doesn't mean it's good. And just because your
And the
science,
more cool stuff that's in it that doesn't come to fruition makes it more aggravating. Now, full disclosure, honestly, I actually feel like the bones of this comic are so good that it sort of is good in a way, even though I was completely maniacally ripping it apart. I know I probably sound like schizophrenic at this point, but you know, just like you said, the art is amazing. The characters as created, especially the villains, the alien that we don't really learn anything about. Overmaster looks so cool with that sort of paramilitary beret kind of looking
yeah,
thing, and he's giant. He's got Shrike, who is this three-toed harpy looking. We don't know anything about her. It's just like it hurts me.
yeah.
I don't
It's just a massive missed opportunity. It's a massive shame. It's what keeps me in comics because you never know. Someone might dust off these crazy characters. There's a few really good creators around that do dust those off whenever they get employed by the big two, so to speak. So let's never say never about the Overmaster and the cadre. And let's never say never about our absolutely amazing battleground that just apparently is just so super chill that you can just fight a huge superhero war on top of him. But Patrick, when push comes to shove and we get down to brass tacks, where's this lie on the tarnished bronze pantheon for you? I've made a note here. I've just given this. If I could just award it on art alone, this would be much higher. But uh, I gave it a 2 out of 5, and probably two of those points are for the actual just art alone. Like if we got rid of all the captions, all the stuff, and just had the pictures, I'd be fine.
Honestly, as great as the art makes this comic, but here's the thing: if you had just fleshed out the story that they alluded to at the end in prose, in like a 4-page short story with no pictures, I would have bought it. Do you know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
like back matter in 5 years later, perhaps, Patrick.
Oh yeah, if this had been a text page in a Keith Giffen, yeah, that would have been worth the price of admissions in a Keith Giffen 5 years later comic. It's tough because, and I know that I went off and whatever, and yeah, I mean, people now I feel kind of self-conscious about it, but I don't care. It was necessary. I feel cleansed at this moment.
Yeah,
But here's the thing. I mean, I do like it but I think it's because of the art. But the two-panel wrap-up or whatever that just doesn't work for me. It reminds me a little bit of the DC Comic Presents 26, where I thought there was a lot of
good
opportunity.
good people can do crappy comics.
Yeah, exactly. And
Like,
I'm not a comic book creator, so I haven't done any good stuff. So who am, like I said,
yeah,
so I want to add that caveat because I don't want anybody to think, I mean, I don't think that many people are listening to my comments, and I don't think that people care enough to like rip me apart.
yeah.
But if you want
You and
to,
I are not Jim Aparo. We're not drawing our own thing, going, "Oh, look at all the foibles and shitty shortcuts people have done." It's just,
yeah, or I'm superior. I don't think that at all. This is something where you've created something that I actually love. And yeah, I'm pissed off and I don't ever get like that because I wanted it to be more because I always say on this channel, I always say in real life, I don't take ownership of these things. I am letting you as the creator lead me down the path and entertain me. If you want to change characters and or change their, gender, these things that you were saying people complain about, I don't complain about that. Like you can do what you want, just tell me a good story. And in this case, I feel like you teased me with a good story and then you pulled the rug out from under me. And that makes me feel betrayed as a reader. And maybe that's why I got so upset. So I feel like I'm rationalizing myself at this point. However, like I said, the bones, I'm wondering if that makes it go better. I want you to kick off because I
all
feel
right.
like I'm
So
very
I'm going to
torn.
kick off the conversation. Our litmus test for a competent comic that does and says nothing is Avengers 304. Our litmus test for a comic that really strives but doesn't quite pull it off is Invasion number one. So Invasion number one is kind of in our top 15-ish. Avengers 304 is in the bottom 5 or 6 issues, not because they're like one has superior artwork. Indeed, 304 is actually very well crafted as far as comic books go, but it just does nothing. It filled up a month of comics. Now, Patrick, this is a thing that does in many ways fill up a month of comics. The art is really good. The three leading into this made me really care about these characters. The reveal of all of the stuff and they're under Antarctica or wherever is kind of really cool. But I'm left with a disappointment. And when we're talking about disappointments, I think we're starting to talk about Marina and the heavy metal saga, like we're wrapping it up with our first year university classes that and then the other one which is quite high on our list is the Kang saga, which was all sizzle and no steak. And so that, for example, the Kang saga is in our top 10. Invasion number one is in our top 15. The Marina saga and so on is kind of in the middle. And I'm thinking that, although for very different reasons, this is going to be near the Marina saga and somewhat near 234, 235, because that art just elevates it from being just the plodding
And
day
here's
to
the
day.
thing, okay, 2 points. One is I think it obviously, despite my diatribe, it has to have good things about it, or otherwise it wouldn't cause you to feel disappointed, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's that. The other thing that I was going to ask, or maybe even assert, is despite the fact that it's wrapped up so haphazardly, it does in a way feel more significant and better than the other three comics leading up to it. Is that fair?
Uh,
Oh,
I, I
maybe
still
not.
find the Vixen story a bit more compelling because it had a rationale behind it, whereas the cadre has no rationale. Like I don't know what they're for,
And
which is
she
what you would,
doesn't do.
which is one of your major complaints is the cadre has no motivation, and I still didn't get like they look cool. That's their motivation is to basically fill 10 pages of story.
Now
Um,
we put the steel. Okay, so Vixen was kind of a two-part thing. So we put
yeah,
the steel Vixen at 235 above 234. So you're saying maybe put 236, slide it in under 234.
yeah,
That's fair.
yeah.
And we almost maybe, and if we get to 50 and we redo, we almost maybe should consider rating these all as one arc.
I wouldn't complain about that. It's just that it was very uneven for different reasons. And so I wasn't sure that we could do it justice by collating these all as one comic because they all had
Fair.
foibles and failings that weren't the same across all of the arcs. And I'm very comfortable, Patrick, leaving this a little bit below DC Presents 26 because you know that just had weird characterizations, not there wasn't anything really wrong with it. It was just that I don't think Green Lantern can astrally project. But anyway,
And it had like a great character in Ingon who actually was used in an interesting way, right? That to me that was another one where there was a brainchild. I feel like this had the potentials for brainchild. I almost wish like let Starlin rewrite this, right? I mean, this
yeah,
sort of seems right up his alley.
let's get out of that 4 part introduction of the new Justice League Detroit and just turn it into a normal comic, and it would have done much better. So you heard it here first. Avengers 236. In the words of Patrick, criminal negligence. In the words of myself, missed opportunity. We've simmered down a little bit, and it's in the ballpark of where the rest of the Justice League Detroit is. You can tune in down the line. We will cover some more Justice League Detroit, just because it is exactly what Tarnished Bronze is all about. I'm trying to delve into this stuff and see if we can find something good. I hope you enjoyed the art because that was the best part of this comic book.
I do
And
want to promise that we will be back to our regularly scheduled home, Patrick, in future episodes. Do not get used to this. I do apologize if I've offended anyone because I'm actually a sensitive, nice person. But I love supervillains and groups, and yeah, I can't stand it when I feel like they're mistreated.
yeah, we don't want to mistreat our overmasters. So we'll
Exactly.
leave you on that note. You can like, follow, and subscribe, and we'd love if you can tune into our other videos.